Hey, now it is the Rob from 106.1 KISS FM here with my 16-bit colleague.
Hey guys, it's me, Steve, web contributor to 1061 evansville.com. And up, up, down, down, left, right is just a secret code, not a way of life.
It's not a way of life.
No.
We are once again the best dressed podcast on the internet. Steve, your shirt, you stand up, and I think this is worth showing off a little bit.
Thank you very much. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I support the boobies.
That's right. We always do.
Yes.
We've got. We're going to take a little break from our focus on the gaming systems like we've been doing. We will get to our favorite games from the N64 at a later date. But I don't know about you, Steve. I love Halloween.
Oh, yes.
And we only have a few weeks to really celebrate Halloween. So I figure this time, maybe next time, let's talk about scary games,
okay,
or horror games, or monster villains, and whatever you want to, however you want to call that. Let's talk about some of the scariest games in the history of video games.
All right.
My second favorite game of all time is probably the best horror game of all time. You know I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil.
Yes.
That first one specifically. Now, this franchise has greatly drifted away from where it was as a horror game, a survival horror game, or whatever you want to call it. Now it's a lousy action game, if you want me to be totally honest. But Resident Evil 1, 2, 4, and 0, I feel all qualify as great scary games.
Oh, legitimately scary games.
The first one is loaded with so many great horrific moments, like the very first time the zombie is revealed, the first zombie, when he turns his head from the carcass he's eating, when the dog jumps through the window. Yeah. Have you played these games? First one?
Yeah, I love these games.
When that dead dog jumps through the window, some of those boss battles, when enemies come back to life and reanimate, my gosh. That set the bar, and it set the bar high for scary video games. Your thoughts?
Completely agree. Just going through there, I mean, my first time ever being terrified at a video game, I mean, a legitimate scare jump was Resident Evil.
It was like the first generation where that was possible.
Yeah.
Like, a 16-bit game wouldn't really have the ability to scare you with sprites or whatever you want to call the characters. Like, Mario couldn't terrify you. You know, but when you get to these polygon 3D worlds and the camera that didn't move, so you can kind of have like a beautiful background, and you just control your character in front of it, like that was really where you could really feel that kind of emotion from a video game, where it could scare you, where it could take you on that journey. And like I think that one advantage a video game in general, especially a game like Resident Evil, has over something like a scary movie is that you are controlling the character. You're making the decisions. You're opening the door. Whereas instead of watching Jamie Lee Curtis do it, you get to do it yourself. And that's impressive. And that's really why I believe it. I do believe this wholeheartedly. Video games are the premier storytelling medium of our generation.
Oh, easily.
You know, movies, you're passive. Reading a book, it's passive. It may have a lot of information in it. Even a blockbuster movie that's, you know, like Guardians of the Galaxy, you're still, it's a great movie and its production is huge, but you're still a passive observer of it. In these games, you're making those decisions. You're feeling that struggle. The struggle is real when you're playing a video game.
It's happening to you.
So what other games should we mention, Steve?
I feel like you have to mention Silent Hill.
Second one on my list, too.
That was a strong one.
Those to me, they do have their moments. They pale in comparison to Resident Evil as far as fun goes. They might be as scary, but they're not as fun, in my opinion. You know, your thoughts?
I mean, it's definitely not Resident Evil, but the scare factor, I mean, it's definitely there. I mean, they have the jumps. You know, you're a father looking for your child in this wasteland, this, you know, make-believe town of Silent Hill. And, I mean, just anything that can attack you will attack you.
Have you ever heard of the Fatal Frame series of games?
No, I don't believe so.
They're pretty successful. There's been a bunch of them, and I've only played one of them. And the way I came upon this game was I went into a video game store, and I was talking to the clerk about my love of Resident Evil, and I was like, I think I probably referred to it as the scariest game of all time. He's like, if you want the scariest game of all time, try Fatal Frame.
Okay.
And I tried this game. I played the second one, and this is another one. It did have its scares. Basically, you're like, you kind of you're going through a haunted. I guess it's like a house, a big manor, which I think is a great setting. I love haunted house games. Like if the game takes place in a haunted house, or if a level goes like if Mario goes into a ghost house or whatever, I like being in a haunted house. I like that.
Luigi's Mansion.
Luigi's Mansion is not very terrifying, but it's a haunted mansion
Yes.
for sure. And those are cool games too.
Yeah.
So he said try Fatal Frame, and it suffered from not being very fun,
Okay.
but did have some pretty good scares. You walk around with a camera, and you try to get pictures of these ghosts, and taking the picture of them will kill them. There are some cool jump scares, but again, it suffered from bad gameplay. It was a PlayStation 2 game. Other scary games, you ever play Splatterhouse?
Yes, I have played Splatterhouse.
Kind of scary, more, I would call that like a horror gore fest kind of movie.
Yeah, more gory than scary.
Yeah, more like a a slasher film as opposed to a scary movie.
Yeah.
Those kind of predated me. Like I never played them growing up, but I played them a little bit as a grown up.
Mm-hmm.
Did you play them much?
It was kind of here and there. It wasn't really my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I was kind of getting into more of the different games. I like to beat them ups, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I did play them probably teen years, maybe shortly. But
Cool.
the Resident Evil kind of took over for me, and that was it.
When I was growing up, there was a popular computer game called The 11th Hour or The 13th Guest. They're all kind of the same. Have you heard of those?
I've heard of them. I haven't played them.
They were like kind of like puzzle solving in a haunted mansion kind of
Okay.
games. I never played them that much. I watched my friend play it mostly. My friend had them, and they had their the ambiance of being scary. It was a computer game, so it was kind of like a step above what the Super Nintendo was doing at the time. But those are regarded as being good scary games.
No.
And another franchise that I'm going to mention is Alone in the Dark. If you've ever played those games.
Yes.
They're lousy games that kind of they focus on scares and being alone and stuff like that, but they never got the gameplay right on those. I played one for the PlayStation 1, I played one for the Wii, and they're all bad. They're just not great games. So I guess, can I speak for both of us by saying if you want to play the best scary game of all time, you have to look to Resident Evil?
Yeah. I do want to throw one more out there. Have you played The Suffering?
No, I haven't, but I've heard of it.
It's very good. PlayStation 2, I think 2003, 2004, takes place in a prison. It's basically the same thing. You're walking around, it's survival horror. All your monsters are created and based on styles of execution. Like you have a monster that tries to lethal inject you. You have a monster that's on fire, a monster that has
That's
like
cool.
blades that try to decapitate you. I strongly recommend that. It was only, I think they may have made 2 or 3,
Okay.
but the first one was the only one worth playing.
I'll keep that in mind.
No.
So there is our conversation about some of the scariest games of all time, just in time for Halloween.
Yes.
We should hopefully have another episode before then, I would think, and we can maybe focus on some of the best monsters or video games or stuff like that. We'll get to another Halloween topic for you before too long. So for myself, the Rob, and of course my friend Steve.
Thanks, guys.